Welcome all. You're listening to the MLTI 2.0 podcast, Teaching with Tech.
We are your hosts, MLTI Ambassadors.
We are here to support Maine educators by building a network focused on authentic voices, experiences, and technology integration. Hello and welcome to the MLTI 2.0 podcast, Teaching with Tech. My name is Joshua Schmidt and I will be your host today. I am joined by two fellow MLTI ambassadors, Nicole K-Rod and Kate Meyer, who both helped us begin this conversation by defining and outlining artificial intelligence and how it looks in the classroom in our previous episode. This episode is going to dive into the conversation around should AI be banned in schools? And we picked this kind of hot button question because we know that's a really big indicator right now of how people feel about artificial intelligence in general. So we're going to start with Kate. Kate, do you think that AI should be banned in schools, and why do you feel the way that you feel about that?
I do not think that AI should be banned in schools, and I have a lot of feelings and reasons around that. But the one that's kind of, top of mind when I really think about this is the idea that we always talk about how we are trying to prepare our students for the future, whatever that might look for them. And I feel like maybe for the first time in my entire career, 22 years in education, I have a clear picture of what the future probably is going to look like in terms of technology and technology advancements in the workplace. Whereas before, I kind of always felt like we were trying to predict something, and now we have it in front of us. And many industries are already using AI, so it's already being used in retail and commerce, in manufacturing, in healthcare, in the food service industry, in financial services. We know that AI is already part of the workplace. And I read a really interesting report, the World Economic Forum's Futures of Jobs reports that came out in 2020. And they predicted that by 2025, 50% of the workforce is going to need to reskill because of the adoption of technology. So we're 2 years away from 2025 at this point. And we can see that AI is going to be a part of that. And so I just feel very strongly that, again, really for the first time, I can kind of predict the future, one of the tools that my students might need. And I really think that that's something that we need to be talking about in school.
Well, and I think it's super interesting that it talks about retooling how, we work around this AI, which fits a lot what you and Nicole talked about in the last episode of using AI as a tool, not necessarily as a replacement for something that you'd be doing otherwise. So what about you, Nicole, when you talk about banning artificial intelligence in schools, kind of where do you fall in that spectrum on that conversation?
I agree with Kate. And I think that you have to kind of look at this as like, why might a school ban artificial intelligence? And I think right now what's running us is a little bit of fear, right? It's that whole conversation of cheating and plagiarism, and is it going to kill the essay? And so I do understand a little bit why maybe right now schools might be banning, but I think there has to be a plan, right? So that it's not banned forever, because you can't, it's in everything. It's coming every time I look at something, there's a new resource out. So banning it is going to be a chase that you just don't want to be a part of. And like I said, I understand that right now, if ChatGPT, if that's what you need to do to get your school ready for the next steps, then that's understandable, but have a plan. Think about, okay, how are we going to make sure our teachers are equipped with this? What can we do for our students to teach them this so that they do have it for the future, like Kate was saying, because it's important. We have to have these conversations about all of this, cheating, plagiarism. What does it look like in my classroom to have a classroom with artificial intelligence?
In the last episode, Rob had actually drawn an analogy to math teachers with the photomath and Wolfram Alpha and the more powerful calculators that came out over the last 10 to 15 years, and how as a math teacher, you have to rethink what your curriculum looks like because you don't want to avoid the tool, because in many cases, the kid's going to use it And the question is, are they going to know how to use it effectively to do better work? Do you think that AI kind of fits into a similar vein where we're looking at kids are going to be using this resource and really our job and role is teaching them to use it more effectively?
I think, like Nicole mentioned, the fear aspect of it, and that's why many schools and many classrooms are just jumping right to banning it until they, can get their feet underneath them, and that makes total sense. But just like you mentioned, with the math teachers having to change the way that they do math with their students, I think it's going to change how the rest of us do our content areas with students as well. So I'm an English teacher, and it's going to change the way that I teach writing with my students, because I have this whole new tool to share with them that's embedded in so many different places already. And so it's like the advent of the calculator. The calculator appeared, or photomath appeared, and all of a sudden they had to change how they did math a little bit. And it's going to be the same in my class. I think one of the big conversations that I'm going to have with my students when I go back to my classroom in the fall is what plagiarism means in the age of AI tools. And so, is it plagiarism if you plug in some keywords into AI and it spits out an entire, essay, for example, and you copy and paste that into a Google Doc? Is that plagiarism? I think I know where we will all fall on that question, that of course, if it's completely bot created, then yes. But what if it is a creative, collaborative conversation back and forth between you and the AI tool, where you are inputting your ideas and it is acting as almost like a thought partner with you? Is that plagiarism? Is that any different than doing that with your, your writing partner who sits next to you at the desk next to you? And I think that's a much more nuanced conversation. I don't have an answer. But I'm sure that, as we continue to talk about it, we will arrive at the appropriate use of AI tools in the classroom.
I think it's also very easy to say, like, this is going to kill the essay, this is going to do that. And then once you start to use it and we start to generate ideas, as teachers do, it's very obvious to me how much critical thinking is going to be happening around it. But that's only going to happen if we teach our kids how to use it. So like Kate said, to give them those scenarios and have that conversation, not only among us as teachers, but with students, so that they're looking at, well, what does that look like if I plug everything into the AI bot and I pop it into a Google Doc and I pass it in? Well, first of all, is that even going to look like something that I want? And then how do I change it and how do I fix it? So I'm thinking about this as a conversation between the machine and I. And again, asking that question as well, is it plagiarism?
Recently, I've heard quite a few examples of, because the fear is cheating and plagiarism from the teacher side most often, that there's been kind of like an artificial catching of people who have been accused of using something like ChatGPT and they haven't, or in situations of the bot hallucinates facts, so makes up a fact that they have labeled as true. Do either of you think about how that fits into the purpose of teaching kids how to use this? So maybe that they're able to navigate, and like Kate said, the world is going to use these resources once they leave. Is part of our job teaching kids how to navigate those concerns as well, not just the concern of whether it's plagiarism or straight cheating?
I think for me, like, one of the things that I try really hard is to teach my kids to go back and edit their work and go back and check their sources. And I mean, how many times do you say that as a teacher, right? And that's one of those processes that the kids they get frustrated with. It's like, oh, I already looked at this. And so show them this tool that may hallucinate it and say, like, this really, it's a necessary thing that you have to do, is to check your sources. I see it as one more way to kind of get it for kids to like critically think about what they're doing. Okay, I want to use this tool and it's really cool and it's going to help me, whether it helps me to kind of be on the same level playing field as others, or it's just a tool that makes things easier. but I have to do X, Y, and Z in order to make it work. I think it's just going to help us to get kids to do what they need to do.
And to add to that, I think too, the conversation of it's just a tool. It's not to replace your thinking. It's not to replace your own research, dear students, right? Like it's not, you can't plug in what you're looking for in terms of research and have it spit it right back out to you perfectly. You then still need to use that critical thinking, use your creativity. You are collaborating with the AI, right? You still have to do all of those things. You can't take it at face value. I was in a conversation online the other day with educators, and there was a very frustrated educator who said, I've asked this question over and over, the similar question that Josh just asked. So I keep asking it in all these teacher forums, and all that anybody ever says to me is, you have to talk to the kids about ethical use of AI. You have to talk to them about what plagiarism is, and how come nobody has the answer. And it was so interesting because as I read that, I was like, well, that is the answer. The answer is we have to engage in conversation about it because it's new to us. It's just coming into our kind of collective consciousness. So we do have to engage in conversation about it and together decide where we land, in terms of the ethical use of this tool in education. So yes, it's frustrating to hear that, like, yeah, we have to talk about it and we have to figure it out and we have to work through it. But that really is, that's the frustrating answer, is that that's where we are in terms of AI technology and AI adoption.
Do you think that there is a change on how people interact or view artificial intelligence once they realize that it's not infallible? I think that there is this belief that it is like this perfect essay that it responds to, and it's like absolutely top notch. It's always going to give you the A+ version, which in any form of AI is not the case. And you both have advocated pretty heavily of using it as a tool to improve whatever it is that you're using. Do you think that there's a change in perception, maybe among teachers or students, when they realize what AI is able to do and what it isn't able to do?
I think that change happens when you play with it, right? We've talked kind of over this is the second episode now, just like before you use it with your students, like go play. And that's why I said, like, if there's a ban on ChatGPT right now, I get it. And we have to have a plan. So if that first part of the plan is your teachers are playing and they have resources and they, can have that time, that's super, super important. There's a video on the MLTI website, Fear to Inspiration, that Kate and I have put. Please check that out and go play. That's super important. Kate, what do you think?
I think sometimes actually it can add to the fear of realizing that it isn't perfect, because I think there is a perception that what it's putting out is always, the best output. And so when you show people that, it does make mistakes, I think it can also have the opposite effect, which is it can increase the fear because, so my students are then going to be repeating misinformation possibly and sharing that as if it were actual facts because they are not going back and doing that critical thinking, that double checking piece that we so desperately want them to be doing. So I think it can sometimes also have that opposite effect of increasing the fear and being another reason that people use to then just ban it completely. If it's not going to always tell me the truth, then it has to be shut down.
Which I would say is exactly one more reason why we have to teach our students and our teachers about this, of how to use it so that we can eliminate that fear and they can use it as a tool to help them.
Thank you both so much. We will be continuing this conversation in our second segment, but we're going to take a little break and transition to an interview that Nicole had with Dr. Kim O'Donnell, who is the Assistant Superintendent of the Westbrook School Department, where they talk about how Dr. O'Donnell sees AI progressing in her schools.
Hello, I'm here with Dr. O'Donnell to talk about artificial intelligence in education. Dr. O'Donnell, would you start just by introducing yourself a little bit, who you are, what you do, and what district you're from?
Sure. So I'm Dr. Kim O'Donnell. I'm from the Westbrook School Department in Westbrook, Maine, obviously. I'm the assistant superintendent, and that job encompasses a number of things from curriculum to operations. I do support our technology department, which is probably one of my most favorite jobs. I work with teachers, I work with coaches. So I would say it's kind of like the drawer in your kitchen where you have a lot of pieces and a lot of tools, but every time you go in there, you find what you need. That's probably how I would describe my job.
I love that. Yeah, it's a big job. So today we're talking about artificial intelligence. How do you think AI is being used or will be used in education? And maybe even how do you see yourself using it?
I think this is going to open doors. I mean, it already has, right? We already know there's AI that exists. I don't think it's been named for a lot of people. I think some folks would be like, really? Now that this ChatGPT and Bard and all of these other things are popping up, people are kind of looking over the fence going, what is this? And I'm a little afraid of it because, is it going to take over my job, or is it going to cause kids to cheat? Or, I mean, we could go down a list of 100 different things. So right now for me, when I think about AI as it relates to school, I think about personalized learning. AI learns with you, right? Your responses drive its responses. I could see that really supporting us in terms of helping kids, who are behind, helping potential like new learners who are learning English for the first time. There's a huge range of possibilities right there. I also like the fact that that kind of personalized learning will allow for immediate feedback, right? Because a teacher can't always get to 20 kids in a classroom, but a response from an AI engine might actually provide something that a student needs. I think it will also help us in terms of creating content. I was talking to the business manager the other day. He had actually used an AI function to create a slide deck. He kind of typed in some topics. It gave him back a structure to work with. And of course, he personalized it. And I think that's the piece people are most afraid of, right? Like, oh, it's going to take over my job. Well, it's not. It's going to give you a platform to work from and save you an incredible amount of time. I mean, I've been in education for a long time, and I feel like some of the minutia that bogs us down might be very well addressed by AI, whether it's in the office or the classroom. There's so many possibilities. We have to learn how to use it, not be afraid of it. And that's what I'm most worried about. I had a few folks really go south around wanting to absolutely block ChatGPT. And, we're a Google district too. So we have a little Bard over here on the side, right?
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And I think conceptually that's something that people don't realize, that AI's been around, folks, but being afraid of it is not going to help us use it in a productive way. And that's kind of where I'm standing in the district, really helping people realize the potential. You asked me how I use it. One of the things that I've done is created some job postings, especially lately. It's that time of year. And the district I'm in is a district that's very diverse. We have a fairly high number of folks who struggle with poverty. So I was able to ask ChatGPT to create a job description for, say, an elementary teacher working in a diverse district with multilingual learners, all those keywords, right? And it actually came back and gave me a structured kind of, what you would consider a post that I then was able to turn around and customize and personalize to Westbrook. In the classroom, I think about kids who struggle to write. They can ask a question, type a question in, and get some information back. And instead of, jumping to the conclusion that the child or the student is going to copy that information, what we have to do is get to them before that happens and say, okay, now you have this, let's read this and talk about it. What do you like about it? What don't you like? What's a fact? What might not be correct? How can we make this your own? And, so I just see it as a tool with this incredible potential to kind of leverage the playing field for all students and staff in terms of, day-to-day stuff, from lesson planning to differentiation. Even providing students with the opportunity to get some real and time feedback at 7:00 at night if they're trying to work out a math problem, or they're trying to find some information that they might need for an assignment. I think what we have to do as educators is be smart about it and pay attention, because I just had this conversation with a principal the other day. If you have a student who comes in with a complete essay assignment that is spot on, grammatically correct, and this student has not been able to provide that to you all year long, and all of a sudden they can, you might want to have a conversation about where that originated from. And then that opens doors to talk to kids about things like plagiarism or, a copyright, things like that. So there's just so many things about this that I think can be positive in education. We, the adults, the grown-ups, so to speak, we have to frame it in a different way in our own minds, and not kind of live back in that science fiction movie that we all watched. Of course, I'm assuming everyone's my age and had that experience, but you know what I mean, right?
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and you had so many great points. How would you hope moving forward? And I do think this is kind of a little bit of a slow process, because as educators, we do have so much. And I think it's okay to take it slow as long as we're taking it, right? How do you hope that teachers or schools will tackle this new technology and this challenge?
Well, first of all, I think they need to know it's there, and they need to know what it is, and really talk about, the pluses and minuses, because we know AI is not always going to be 100% accurate. It might be very basic in a response that you expect more detail from. So I think we need to give staff the opportunity to kind of play in the sandbox with it a little bit and test it out. I also think once people realize the ability for content creation, whether it's creating a slide deck or a lesson plan, I don't see it replacing what a teacher would do, because if you ask for a lesson plan, you're going to get a lesson plan, but it's not very personalized. It might not be tailored to the specific needs you have, but it's a structure that you can work from. And I think we need to start having conversations about, this is how you use this tool, right? In education, we talk about, and this has been going on for years, we never have enough time. We never have enough time. I see AI as a tool to help return time to teachers, which in turn, I would hope might drive up some of the quality and the things that they're doing, whether it's, creating content, writing a lesson plan, looking at some differentiation strategies. But I think we have to really deliberately work with people on that. We can't just say, oh, you can do this, this, and this, go ahead and try it out.
And I think one of your teachers told me that you had said something like, we're not chasing it. And I absolutely love that, because, every day we're getting something new, and it would be a hard run. So kind of to wrap us up today, and I'm again going off a little bit off script, but I'm wondering if there's a tip or trick or tool that you have found that you could share with our listeners.
Well, I as far as using AI in my role, doing things like creating, an outline of a job description, creating content, whether it's a slide deck or even thinking about, how I might want to present some information. I have definitely made use of AI in that way. So, as far as tips and tricks go, I think you need to be aware of what you're using and what the product might be. And you can't just assume that, oh, it's done, because, ChatGPT just gave me an awesome paragraph about, a diverse school district and what we're looking for, but it's not always going to be right. So you still have to do some due diligence. And that would be my tip, but pay attention to what you get back, right? Your product might not be completely what you want it to be, but it's going to be a lot more of what you probably need, and a lot less time spent on your part. So then you can work on that customization and that kind of accuracy part of AI that may not be there. So I think we just have to be open-minded and know that this can be a really powerful tool. I don't think denying it is the right thing to do. I think what we have to do is be deliberate in teaching both students and staff how to use it in their, realm.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us today. I think that your students and staff are very lucky to have you. I'm excited that you are as excited as I am about it. And I've just enjoyed hearing your perspective on artificial intelligence as assistant superintendent.
Well, thanks for having me do this. I was pretty excited when I was asked, and I know my tech director was pretty pumped that I was willing to kind of jump into this. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that people can just have an open mind and see the possibilities, see the assets, not the deficits, right? That's really, I think, where we have to start with this, both with students and staff.
Welcome back to the MLTI 2.0 podcast. To close this month, we are going to begin our resource roundtable, where our guests each do a quick overview of resources they think can help educators or students. With this month being about AI in the classroom, we're going to look at resources that both Kate and Nicole think would be good to look at and experiment, especially as we get into the beginning of the summer, something to learn. We're going to do 30 seconds for each, so we're going to put 30 seconds on the clock, and we're going to start with Kate.
All right. I'm going to start with Grammarly Go. It is a new addition to Grammarly that many of us know and love. And yes, it changed the way that we teach writing. But Grammarly Go is an AI bot that will identify mood and tone of writing, and it will give you suggestions for your own writing, and it will evaluate how your writing sounds. And if you need help even crafting the writing, it will help you do that. So I use it especially when crafting emails, responding to emails, trying to read other people's emails with the intended tone. I think it's a great tool to use with students when they are composing their own emails.
Nice. I'm going to go first with The AI Classroom by Dan Fitzpatrick. This is a book that has everything that you want for your AI classroom. You can get it on Amazon. I know that if you have like the free Amazon Reads or whatever that comes free with that, you pay a subscription each month, and you can order also a hard copy. I would say along with this, Dan Fitzpatrick has a website that you can subscribe to a newsletter, as well as his AI educator tools, which gives you all kinds of brand new tools to use all the time.
My next tool is Twee, TWEE.com. It is AI-powered tools for English teachers. It creates questions for you for any YouTube video. It will generate dialogues, stories, letters, and articles on any topic. So great for mentor text. It will create multiple choice quizzes, open questions, true false statements. It will create discussion questions, quotes by famous people related to the topic that you're studying. It will even brainstorm vocabulary that's related to your topic and create fill in the gap and open bracket exercises for your students.
I'm going to go next with CuraPod, which if you've heard of Nearpod, it's similar to that, but it has the AI piece in it. So it will you pop in a topic and it will create lessons that you can have interact with your students. And it will also has a feedback piece that gives it kind of an extra quick feedback to your students that you can review all through the AI.
My next one is Pictory.com, Pictory. I've used it myself to create videos. It will create videos from articles. So you can put in the article, it will create a beautiful video, it will create the closed captioning. That's great for differentiation. So I can say to my students, you can watch a video or you can read the article. Here you go. Takes less than 10 minutes to get that task all set for your students. And I also recently used it with students where they had written an essay and then they plugged in the essay as their text and created video essays with the Pictory AI bot.
Nice. I'm going to go with 11 Labs, which is next, which is AI voices. So basically any sort of text you can pop in there and have a voice read for it, which I think will be an excellent place where students can get over that hurdle of recording themselves and creating videos. So they can just plug in and have the AI read it. And I think that could be really cool.
And my final one is a book, AI for Educators by Matt Miller. It's a short little book with lots of great ideas, lots of ways that educators can use AI to improve their workflow and also create things for and with their students. And if you don't have access to the book, you can always go to ditchthattextbook.com/AI. Matt Miller is keeping a mega blog of AI tools and tips and tricks and resources as he curates them.
Awesome. And then my last one is Midjourney, or any AI generator, image generator. And basically what you do is it's text to image. So you plug in a prompt and out pops a image, and it's pretty incredible.
Well, thank you both so much. I don't know if the listeners were doing the same thing I was, but I was sketching them down as quickly as I could to get some ideas. And as someone who's worked with Kate and Nicole for a while now, these resources are always going to be extremely powerful, and there's going to be a ton that you can do with them. If you have any questions, though, these two are also great resources to reach out to, and they would love to walk you through, especially if you're at the beginning of that AI journey. They have some great tips and tricks. And on the MLTI YouTube channel, they've got a great video. Kate, do you want to talk to us a little bit about that PD video you made with Nicole?
Sure. Nicole and I have been doing some PD for different schools around AI. And we have a video called Artificial Intelligence from Fear to Inspiration, which just goes a little more in depth about using ChatGPT for teacher workflow, and then all sorts of tools and resources that Nicole has curated. And then we end with slides and slides of resources for you to dig into.
Awesome. Thank you both so much, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you all for joining us on the MLTI 2.0 podcast. I wanted to thank both Kate and Nicole for joining us this month, as well as Dr. Kim O'Donnell for her fantastic interview. This will be our final episode of the month and our final major episode of the season, but don't worry, the ambassadors will be returning in the fall for season 2 of Teaching with Tech with some new faces and voices. However, our senior ambassadors, Rob Dominic, Jonathan R. Werner, and Kate Meyer, will be ending their distinguished educator positions and returning to their schools in the fall. The entire MLTI 2.0 team will miss them greatly, not only for their incredible skill and professionalism, but also their constant kindness and respect shown towards all educators. And on a personal note, I am so appreciative of getting to work with these 3 fantastic people, and I feel like I learned so much in this last year from them. If you have questions for the team or wanted to learn more about how we can support your school or district, please reach out at DOE-MLTI 2.0 at maine.gov or by filling out the form in the show notes. If you wanted to learn more about what an MLTI ambassador does and how it can support your school, I would recommend the episode titled What Are MLTI Ambassadors?, which is on this channel. And remember, AI thinks, therefore AI am. Class dismissed.